Offer valid on standard browsers, U.S. only.
When I heard about Date My Age, I thought, really? But there I was in my empty, quiet house, my laptop on the kitchen counter, and I typed in my name. Looking for a man between the ages of 40 to 60? Sure, why not?
Date My Age is different. With verified profiles, you can feel safe and secure to explore meaningful connections with interesting and mature singles.
Date My Age made it really easy. I could join and view online profiles for free. All of a sudden, my empty house wasn't so quiet anymore. I got so much attention, it just made me feel seen and alive. Date My Age helped me start a totally new chapter in my life.
Find a friend, a lover, a partner at Date My Age. Get 60% off when you join at datemyage.com today. That's datemyage.com to connect with thousands of singles worldwide. datemyage.com.
You're listening to Missing Persons, brought to you by AbJack Entertainment. Be sure to check out some of the other great true crime podcasts from this network, including Scene of the Crime, The Murder in My Family, 3 Men and a Mystery, Malice, and DNA ID. All of these podcasts are available for you to binge on right now, wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe where you're listening to this podcast so you don't miss an episode.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this podcast do not necessarily represent those of the podcast, its creators, or sponsors. If you would like to discuss a missing persons case on this podcast, please be sure to visit missingpersonspodcast.net. This episode may contain unsettling or disturbing subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Missing Persons, a podcast dedicated to spreading the word about people who have vanished under mysterious or unexplained circumstances and the family members who are looking for answers. I'm Jess Betancourt.
And I'm Mike Morford. Together we created this podcast to help give a voice to people who continue to look for their missing loved ones. In some cases, even after decades have gone by. In each episode, you'll hear from Jess giving listeners the backstory and the basic facts of the disappearance.
Then Mike will speak with someone who's intimately connected to the missing person, and his guest will share their story with us.
Please stay tuned at the conclusion of this episode to hear about our Patreon program and our commitment to help find people who have gone missing. We'll also share with you where you can find more information and how you can join our team and help our efforts. You'll get recommendations for other podcasts we think you'll enjoy, and more.
So sit back and enjoy this episode, and who knows, maybe you can help us find someone who's missing. Amanda K. Jones was born on October 6, 1978, in St. Louis, Missouri. In 2005, 26-year-old Amanda was a divorced single mom. She lived in a trailer park in the small town of Peverly and worked as a loan processor at Eagle Bank in nearby Festus. Amanda was very close with her parents, Hugh and Bertha Probst, and her 4-year-old daughter Hannah was her life, her family said. Amanda had many friends, 2 siblings she was close with, and had an amicable relationship with her ex-husband. Her mom describes her as a very happy, active, and caring person. Amanda and Hannah's father had divorced, and in December 2004, Amanda met 38-year-old Brian Westfall at her office Christmas party, which took place at the Hillsborough Civic Center. Brian was the son of a local farming family who was working at the time as a teacher in a computer information systems technical training program at a local community college. He was working as a bartender at the Christmas party that night. They had a one-night stand, but the relationship was not to be. Brian had a long-term girlfriend. But then, Amanda learned that she was pregnant. In January 2005, she arranged to meet up with Brian at the Civic Center, bringing Hannah along with her to inform him of her news. But Brian did not take it well. He told her he was not the father and wasn't interested in any further contact with either Amanda or his baby. He wanted her to have an abortion and offered to pay for it. But Amanda was excited about the new baby, and so was big sister-to-be Hannah. Amanda decided that she would have the baby anyway, without the support of Brian Westfall. In August 2005, Amanda was preparing for the birth of her new baby son, whom she had named Hayden Lucas. He was due any time. Amanda and Bertha had even already toured the nursery at the local hospital, and Amanda had prepared Hayden's room, equipping it with diapers and other newborn essentials, and placing a sign on the door reading, "Baby Hayden's Room." On August 9th, Amanda decided to reach out one more time to the baby's father, Brian Westfall, and see if perhaps he had changed his mind about being involved in their child's life. According to her family, she wanted to know whether she should give the baby his last name, and she was considering asking him for child support. Brian initially declined to meet with her, but then Amanda got a surprise call back from him asking if they could meet to talk about the baby and go to lunch at a restaurant, ironically called Off the Hook. Amanda agreed to meet Brian after church on Sunday, August 14th, 2005. That morning, Amanda and Hannah went to church with her parents. After church, Amanda left to meet Brian at the Hillsborough Civic Center where they had first met. She sent her daughter home with her parents and told her she'd be back in a couple hours. She drove off in her blue 1997 Pontiac Sunfire. Amanda then stopped at a Walgreens store in Festus. She was captured on the store's surveillance cameras, which show her entering the store at 12:27 p.m. She bought a Dr. Pepper, a can of VO5 hairspray, and a clip keyring. She paid with her Eagle Bank debit card, spending $10.89. She left the store at 12:35 p.m. and went to meet Brian. According to what Brian told police, the two sat in his car and talked for about an hour. During the conversation, Amanda took an incoming call from her ex-husband's sister, Rhonda Willis, at around 1:15 p.m. This was the last person, other than Brian, to speak with or hear from Amanda. Amanda always showed up when she told her daughter she said she would, but this Sunday she did not. Her parents and her sister Carrie kept calling her cell phone, but it went straight to voicemail, which was very unusual. Carrie went to Amanda's home to check on her, but she wasn't there. She returned to her parents' home where they were becoming increasingly concerned. Then they spoke to Rhonda, who told them that Amanda had been very abrupt, almost rude on the phone, saying only that she could not talk at the moment, something she had never done before. Clearly, Rhonda had interrupted something that was upsetting Amanda. Bertha called Brian even though she didn't know him and got him on the phone. According to True Crime Daily, Brian told Bertha, quote, "Yeah, we met, we went to lunch, and then I dropped her back at her car at 2 o'clock. Hubert Probst, Amanda's father, called Brian back, demanding to know where Amanda was. Brian hung up on him, but then called back. He admitted to Hubert that he and Amanda had not gone to lunch after all. He said that he met with Amanda and, quote, "She got upset. She wasn't hungry. I wasn't hungry. She used the bathroom and I left her at 2 o'clock. Brian said he did some chores at the Civic Center where he was a volunteer, and when he left the facility sometime between 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock p.m., Amanda was sitting in her car on the phone with someone. After that, he said he had no idea what had happened to her." Amanda's family did not believe this story because that mid-August Sunday was a very hot day, and the air conditioning in Amanda's car was broken. Anyone who has ever been 8.5 months pregnant knows that there is nothing worse than being hot in that condition, and sitting behind a steering wheel in a sweltering car is very uncomfortable. The idea that Amanda had been sitting there for several hours was just not plausible. Alarmed, the Probsts called a friend who lived in Hillsborough, which was 12 miles away from Peverly, where Amanda lived. The friend drove by the Civic Center on Sunday evening and reported to Bertha and Hubert that Amanda's car was sitting there in the lot. Her car was found unlocked. Her purse, keys, wallet, and cell phone were missing. The Walgreens purchases were still sitting there. There was no sign of any kind of struggle. Amanda's family called the police around 9 p.m. and filed a missing persons report. At first, police assumed that Amanda might have left of her own accord, but the fact that she was nearly full term in her pregnancy called this into question. She could barely walk 100 yards, much less travel on foot. Also, Amanda suffered from Graves' disease and relied on medication to maintain her health. She had not taken any of this medication with her. These were major red flags for investigators. Plus, Amanda's phone records showed that after the call from her ex-sister-in-law at 1:15, her phone had not been active. What Brian told the family, that she was on the phone when he last saw her, was of doubtful veracity. Searches began for Amanda, focusing on the area around the Hillsborough Civic Center. Ground and air searches turned up nothing. Although there was no immediate evidence of a crime, the circumstances of Amanda's disappearance were suspicious enough that on August 17th, authorities in Jefferson County established a task force comprising 20 police investigators from Crystal City, Festus, Herculaneum, Hillsborough, and Peverly to work on Amanda's missing persons case. The task force was receiving some guidance from the FBI. There was concern that Amanda might have fallen victim to someone who wanted her unborn child. Of course, police wanted to talk to Brian Westfall, the last person known to have seen Amanda. He agreed to come in and speak to Jefferson County Sheriff's investigators, but he brought his attorney with him from the get-go. Investigators thought this was strange, that he brought an attorney with him. They had planned on interviewing him just like any other witness. An attorney seemed like overkill. In his interview, Brian told police that he and Amanda had sat in his car and talked civilly for about an hour before she got into her own car and drove off. Jefferson County veteran detective Doc Coombs said, quote, "According to Mr. Westfall's initial statement, Amanda alluded to the fact that she was currently receiving $600 a month child support from her ex-husband, and she implied that might be the amount of child support for her expected baby. Brian doubted he was the baby's father. He questioned that. They really didn't decide on anything or agree on anything at the time. Amanda went to her car, and according to Mr. Westfall, she started it, and that's the last time he saw her." According to Coombs, Brian confirmed that he drove through the Civic Center parking lot 3 hours later at around 5 p.m. and saw Amanda still sitting in her car talking on the phone. As we said, cell phone records later would show that this was not possible. Since that initial interview, Brian Westfall has refused to speak with any investigators. Kevin Roberts, his attorney, said in a statement to 48 Hours Crime-Cider that Brian wasn't involved in what happened to Amanda and has cooperated fully with the investigation. He said in an email, quote, "My client categorically denies having any involvement in the disappearance of Ms. Jones. When this incident first happened, he cooperated with the authorities, providing law enforcement with a statement and access to his property. My client hopes that Ms. Jones is found so her family and everyone else involved can have answers and closure over her disappearance." On August 23rd, when Amanda had been missing for over a week, a Philadelphia businessman offered a $100,000 reward for information leading to an arrest in her case. This reward has since expired. Jefferson County authorities announced in late August that they had conducted aerial and canine-assisted ground searches of the 2 farm properties in rural Hillsborough owned by the Westfall family, as well as Brian's home and car. The farm properties covered 750 acres, and the Westfalls owned farm machinery and equipment that could have been used to bury a body anywhere on their massive properties. There are also unconfirmed reports that Brian owned a small plane. According to KSDK, police said that some items taken from the property were sent to the Missouri Highway Patrol lab for forensic analysis. 9 months after Amanda vanished, it was reported that 18 pieces of evidence collected by police from Brian Westfall's property and Amanda's car had been tested for DNA. Whether anything came of this is not known. In late August 2005, Jefferson County Sheriff Glenn Boyer stated that foul play was suspected in Amanda's disappearance. While Brian Westfall was not being declared a suspect, he was a person of interest to the sheriff's office. The same was stated about Brian Westfall's girlfriend, who had also very quickly retained an attorney, although it is not known why she did so. She was seen in the company of Brian Westfall on the night that Amanda went missing. The sheriff confirmed that both Brian and his girlfriend refused to take lie detector tests. The police continued to follow up on more than 150 leads, but none of them led anywhere. By November 2005, little Hannah was living with her father in St. Louis. Amanda's car had been released back to her parents, who had to have a key made so they could drive it since her keys were never found. Within a few more months, her parents, who had been paying all of her bills, had to sell Amanda's house and personal possessions. The case grew cold. The FBI continued to work with Jefferson County investigators and in 2014 announced a $20,000 reward in Amanda's case. In the news conference, Bertha and Hubert begged the public to come forward with any information about Amanda and her baby. In 2018, with no progress having been reported, an online petition circulated demanding that the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office reopen the case. More than 1,000 people signed it, but Sheriff's Office spokesman Captain Gary Higginbotham told Five on Your Side that the case was never closed and they continue to follow up on any leads. The problem is, he asserted, that officials can't legally search the Westfall properties any further without a search warrant. The original search of those properties was limited and done only with the family's permission, and no further searches were authorized by the family. It is unknown whether authorities have applied for search warrants, but it sounds as though the sheriff's office is aware that without such searches, Amanda might never be found. If listeners are interested in seeing some video, True Crime Daily sent a reporter out to the Westfall farm, and Brian's parents can be seen turning a reporter away as their son drives away from the cameras in a front-end loader. In 2019, detectives from the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office conducted a dig near the Hillsborough Civic Center where Amanda's car was found. It's not known what precipitated that search, but it did not uncover any remains or evidence. Hannah is now 20 years old. Bertha and Hubert have placed a headstone carved with the names of Amanda and Hayden, but their daughter and grandchild remain missing persons 15 years later. Amanda Jones is a white female, 5 foot 8 inches tall and 225 pounds. She was last seen wearing a pink sleeveless top, a pink and white flowered skirt, and pink sandals. She was carrying a pink purse. Amanda wears glasses but was wearing contact lenses at the time of her disappearance. She has a dolphin tattoo on her left breast. She continues to be listed on the FBI's Most Wanted Kidnappings Missing Persons page. Mike Morford sat down to talk with Bertha Probst, Amanda Jones's mom, from Missing Persons. That conversation is coming up after a word from our sponsors.
Offer valid on standard browsers, U.S. only.
When I heard about Date My Age, I thought, really? But there I was in my empty, quiet house, my laptop on the kitchen counter, and I typed in my name. Looking for a man between the ages of 40 to 60? Sure, why not?
Date My Age is different. With verified profiles, you can feel safe and secure to explore meaningful connections with interesting and mature singles.
Date My Age made it really easy. I could join and view online profiles for free. All of a sudden, my empty house wasn't so quiet anymore. I got so much attention, it just made me feel seen and alive. Date My Age helped me start a totally new chapter in my life.
Find a friend, a lover, a partner at Date My Age. Get 60% off when you join at datemyage.com today. That's datemyage.com to connect with thousands of singles worldwide. datemyage.com.
Hi, Bertha, and thanks for coming on Missing Persons to discuss your daughter Amanda's case with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Your daughter's been missing for over 15 years, and I can't imagine what you must have gone through during that time. How have you dealt with missing your daughter all these years and continuing to move forward, trying to, find out where the road leads so you can get some kind of answers?
Well, I can truthfully say that 15 years has been hell on earth. It's been hard without her. Amanda was my best friend. She was a good friend to all of her brother and her sister, and especially her daughter, Hannah, who is now 20 years old. If it wasn't for us having Hannah with us these last 15 years, I don't know where I would be. She has been my rock. We never forget about Amanda. We have never given up trying to get answers. We do whatever we can to get these answers, but we keep coming up, hitting brick walls. Our local sheriff's department doesn't seem to be doing anything. Anytime we give them any leads that people have given us, they always come back and say that they don't pan out or some other excuse. We've had several people come to us and say, we're going to help you find your daughter, different organizations, but as soon as they talk to the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department, we never hear from them again. It's just been very frustrating and irritating, and what we need is for the person who has the answers to come forward, but people say they're afraid of Brian Westfall and his family. So until something like that happens, I don't know if we'll ever get answers.
The case is pretty puzzling, and we'll get into some of the details and the clues that are sort of out there. I know that you just mentioned someone that your family suspects. Before we get into the mystery of what happened to your daughter, I think we should state right up front that the person of interest we'll be talking about primarily in this case, Brian Westfall, has not been arrested, charged, or convicted for any crimes connected to Amanda's case. Can you tell us a little bit about her background, what she was like, some of your memories of her?
Amanda, whenever you say the word Amanda Jones, you knew that you were talking about a very loving, caring person. Amanda loved people. She loved family. She was very active in her life. She was the type of person that if whatever you needed, she was going to help you get that. She helped a family one time by letting them stay with her for over a month till they found a place to live. That's just what type of person she was. She was the rock of our family. She kept everybody in line, per se, you know. She always had a smile, a very contagious laugh. Anytime you heard that laugh, you knew, well, there's Amanda. She's here, because she was very happy in her life. She loved her daughter. Her daughter was her whole world. Her and Hannah spent almost every minute of the day together that they could. Amanda treated her just like she was her best girlfriend. And like I said, she was a family person. We've seen Amanda. If we didn't see her every day, we at least talked to her every day. So she knew what we were doing. We knew what she was doing. We were both in the same field of work. So we kind of talked about our work together. We just did a lot of things together. She was just the type of person that if you knew her, you didn't forget her.
You mentioned she was very close with her daughter. Amanda was married before and divorced. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Hannah was her only child at that point. After the divorce, did she start dating regularly? Or, there's this band that you mentioned that we're going to talk about a little bit that your family has some suspicion about. Was she dating him for a while? What was the backstory with him?
She never did dating. Everybody seems to think, everybody says the boyfriend and girlfriend. She was never dating Brian Westfall. They were never boyfriend and girlfriend. They met at a Christmas party that her bank was giving that year at the Civic Center. Brian Westfall was the bartender at that time. And that's the first time they ever met. So she wasn't dating this man. Amanda wasn't regularly dating anybody per se. She may go out with somebody here and there, but she didn't have a steady date.
So this was
person.
A chance meeting, essentially, but not a relationship, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Right. It was just as people would say, a one-night stand.
Okay. And at some point, Amanda found out she was pregnant. And is it correct to assume that she went to this man and confronted him? And tell us a little bit about that, how that played out.
Yeah, she did. She found out she was pregnant. And she went and met with Brian Westfall. And she took her daughter, Hannah, with her this time. They met at the Civic Center. And she proceeded to tell him that she was pregnant. And he said he denied it. He said he didn't want anything to do with it. He said he would give her money for an abortion. And Hannah stood right up and told him, she said, "You're not going to hurt my baby." So Hannah had an inkling. She kind of knew what abortion was, that it was going to be hurting a baby. Well, from that point on, Amanda never even talked to him or contacted him until I think it was a few weeks before she was going to deliver. She contacted him to let him know that she was going to have a baby boy and that if he wanted to have any relationship with the baby. And again, he denied it. Wouldn't you think if you were accused of being pregnating a woman, and you would want to get a DNA test to prove it?
Yeah,
he never even offered anything like that.
Yeah, it seems like something that most people would ask for. Mm-hmm. Was Amanda okay with having the baby on her own? Did she expect him to be involved at all, or was she just letting him know what was going on? What was her thinking with that?
Well, what she had told us, she told her dad and I, she says, I will raise this baby on my own, just like I have Hannah. So she had no problem being a single mother. She was so ecstatic about this baby. I mean, she had the nursery ready, and it was the Saturday before she disappeared that Sunday. we were at the hospital looking at the nursery, touring the nursery for the hospital. So she was very excited about this. She knew she was having a little boy, and that was even more exciting to her because now she would have a little girl and a boy.
So she was ready and prepared to do this all on her own and not even involve that man in her life.
Right. She was prepared, but she wanted to give him the opportunity that if he wanted to be involved in this baby's life, then he could.
When did you know that something was wrong? How did you come to the conclusion that something was wrong and she was missing?
Amanda was the type of person that if she told you she was going to be somewhere at a certain time, she was there, or she would be calling you. So she told us when we left church that Sunday, and Hannah came with us. She told Hannah, she said, Mommy will see you in a couple of hours. And besides that, Amanda had a bowling tournament to go to that night. So I knew she wasn't going to be gone too long. Well, when 2 hours came, we never heard from Amanda. So we waited a little while longer, and we knew then something isn't right. So that's when we started making phone calls. And to people that we know that might have seen her, we started going to her house, looking for her. My youngest daughter went around Hillsboro and everywhere looking for Amanda, and we couldn't find her. So we knew something was wrong.
Did she have a cell phone at the time? Did you try calling her phone, and what response did you get, if so?
We tried calling her phone, and it just went straight to voicemail. We couldn't get anything. Or answered her cell phone or her home phone.
Okay, and then what point did you decide, okay, there's something going on here, we need to involve the police?
We called the police that evening. We had a friend of ours who lives in Hillsboro to go out to the Civic Center, and he found her car, and we knew then there was something terribly wrong. So, but in the meantime, I had called. I'd look in the phone book trying to find this Brian Westfall's phone number because I had never met the man. I didn't know what he looked like or anything. And I called all the Westfalls I could find in the phone book, and I finally got the right house. His mother answers the phone, and I told her who I was and that I was looking for my daughter Amanda that had met with him at 1:00 that day. She handed him the phone. He gets on the phone, and I proceed to tell him the same thing. And he says, I don't know where your daughter's at.
Did he admit that he had seen her that day and talked to her?
Not at that one conversation, but then we called back. And I was pretty hysterical at that time. And if my recollection, it's been 15 years, so I can't remember my exact words. But I again told him who I was, and I said, you met with her at 1:00. And he agreed he did. I said, well, was there something wrong? Did she go into labor? And he said, well, we met at 1:00. We were supposed to go to lunch at Off the Hook. She wasn't hungry. I wasn't hungry. So I left and she left. Well, that was a lie. The car never left the parking lot. Then he proceeds we contacted him one more time. My husband gets on the phone with him and told him that, Brian, if anything's happened to my daughter, I'm going to hold you responsible. Well, Brian hangs up. Then Brian calls us back, and tells my husband, he says, sir, let me be quite honest with you. We met at 1:00. We were going to go eat it Off the Hook. She got a phone call. Then she had to use the restroom. And then she wasn't hungry and I wasn't hungry. And I left, and then she left. And then he said that he came back at 5:00 and her car was still sitting there.
So he claims that when he last saw her, she was sitting in her car talking on her phone, if I'm not mistaken. Is that what he claims?
Exactly. And phone records show that she got a call at 1:15, I believe it was, and that was from her ex-sister-in-law. But she didn't get any calls after that because it went straight to voicemail. That was the last phone call that she received, or that was even that she didn't make any phone calls. And we're talking about August here in Missouri. August in Missouri is very hot. Amanda didn't have air conditioning in her car. You're not going to have a 8.5-month pregnant woman sitting in an un-air conditioned car from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock, as he claims.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem realistic. And then, if I'm not mistaken, her air conditioning was broken in the car as well?
Exactly. She had no air conditioning.
Offer valid on standard browsers, U.S. only.
When I heard about Date My Age, I thought, really? But there I was in my empty, quiet house, my laptop on the kitchen counter, and I typed in my name. Looking for a man between the ages of 40 to 60? Sure, why not?
Date My Age is different. With verified profiles, you can feel safe and secure to explore meaningful connections with interesting and mature singles.
Date My Age made it really easy. I could join and view online profiles for free. All of a sudden, my empty house wasn't so quiet anymore. I got so much attention, it just made me feel seen and alive. Date My Age helped me start a totally new chapter in my life.
Find a friend, a lover, a partner at Date My Age. Get 60% off when you join at datemyage.com today. That's datemyage.com to connect with thousands of singles worldwide. datemyage.com.
And was the car found in the same spot where he said he last saw her in it?
He never gave an exact spot where he said the car was, but the car was sitting there at the Civic Center right there in the parking lot when our friend found it. And it was unlocked. There was nothing in it. Her phone, her purse, her keys was all gone. The only thing that was sitting in the car was a Dr. Pepper that she had bought and a can of hairspray.
There were no signs of any kind of struggle in the car, anything broken, anything on the ground, anything like that?
No. Not that we're aware of, no.
Obviously, as the last person that saw your daughter, the police wanted to talk to him, and they did wind up talking to him. Was he forthcoming with them? What did he say to police, and did they believe what he had to say?
I don't know what he said to the police. They don't tell us anything. But they said they talked to him, and they were going to investigate it. And he said that he met with her, and that, see, this was another story. He left her at a little after 1 o'clock when she said that she wasn't hungry and he wasn't hungry, vice versa. He came back at 3 o'clock and her car was still sitting there. Then he claims he came back again at 5 o'clock and her car was still sitting there. So he gives them a different story than he gave us.
So he's not having a consistent explanation all the way through?
No, he was not consistent with anything. And then he lawyered up that same night. He got a lawyer. And his longtime girlfriend that was also with him, we understand that night, got a lawyer. She wasn't with him when she met with Amanda, but she was with him later on that night. People had seen her riding around through the town with him.
And to your knowledge, and this is just a detail I think listeners might want to know because we may not obviously be familiar with the layout of that area, but where her car was parked, were there any kind of cameras or surveillance or anything that police went back and reviewed?
They claim there wasn't, but I can't imagine why a big area like that, a civic center, wouldn't have cameras. But they claim there wasn't. So I don't know. That's all I know.
Was there any kind of search done, any kind of organized search looking for clues, looking for anything at all to see what might have happened?
They told us that they went out to his property and that he did a consented search. In other words, you can look here, but you can't look there type of search, per his lawyer's instructions. And then it was 14 days later when they got a search warrant where you can build a whole city in 14 days, that they went out to his property and claimed that they did. Now you're talking about 750 acres, okay? They claimed they did this search on that property in less than a day. I can't see that. Not to do a complete, thorough search. And then when I would ask questions, well, did you look at certain places? Like I asked him, I said, he's got several septic tanks on that property. I said, well, did you check the septic tanks? And all they could tell me was, well, we had cadaver dogs and they didn't smell anything. They always seemed to have an excuse no matter what I asked. I don't believe they searched that property the way they should have.
You think it should have taken longer if they were doing a thorough search?
Yes. Yes, I do. And it wasn't even publicized or anything. Most people, I mean, you see a lot of these people who go missing and they do searches, and there's always publicity about it. There wasn't any publicity about this search. It was more or less like a hush-hush thing. So I don't even know if they really done it. They wouldn't let us come. My husband was in the military at that time, and he asked him, he says, well, can my unit come and help with the search? And sheriff said, no, you might mess up the evidence. What evidence? According to them, they don't have any. They wouldn't let anybody help with anything. They always denied any type of search help that people would try to help with. They denied it.
It's going to be frustrating to have roadblocks put up while you're trying to find your daughter.
It is. Very frustrating.
To look at all the different pieces of the puzzle, you mentioned that Amanda was ready to take care of this child on her own. She really didn't need him. She wanted to give him the opportunity, but if he didn't want anything to do with the child, she was going to take care of him. What do you think his motive would be in that situation? Because one could say, okay, he has a motive because he doesn't want this child, but at the same time, Amanda was of the mind that I don't need you. I'm going to take care of this child on my own. So, what do you think his motive could have been had he been responsible?
Well, I think one motive would be if he was responsible, he would have to pay child support. And he probably didn't want to do that. And another thing is he's a big mama's baby, from what I understand. And his mother had made the remark one time that no bastard son is going to take my fortune. So I think that would have been another motive to protect
wealth
his
or whatever monies that the family has.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Well, let me ask you this. Is there, if some people might say, well, could the ex-husband have done it? Was she on good terms with her ex-husband? Was there anything problem-wise there or anyone else that she may have had an issue with that could have harmed her?
No, she was at good terms with her ex-husband, and they did investigate him. But no, they were at good terms. And I can't think of anybody else because I said Amanda was a very loving person. She didn't have no enemies. Everybody liked her and loved her. And I just can't imagine anything else. And he was the last person to see her and talk to her. And then he seems to have all these different scenarios that happen. And then after that interview with the police, his lawyer won't let him talk to anybody anymore.
So he's essentially the last person that we know saw Amanda, but he's not helping any further. He's pretty much shut down at the advice of his lawyer.
Right, exactly.
Do you think there's any chance if in the world, in any universe where Amanda could have just said, you know what, I'm going to go off and have a fresh start on my own, or do you think she definitely met with foul play?
No, she wouldn't have done that. Like I said, her daughter was her life, and she would not have done that. She wouldn't have left Hannah for nothing.
So in your mind, whether it was at the hands of this man that we've discussed or someone else, in some way she, in your opinion, met with foul play.
Exactly. Yes, I believe in my heart she met with foul play.
And you mentioned the police haven't been as forthcoming, or maybe at certain times they haven't done as good a job as you hoped they would do. Mm-hmm. Where does the investigation stand now? Are they still investigating it? Are they staying in touch at all, updating you? Where does all that stand right now?
No, they're not staying in touch with us at all. It's a cold case. As far as I know, they tell me they're investigating, but yet if I give them any kind of tips that I get or anything, they don't do anything with it, or they come back and say that they're no good, or They don't contact me. It takes me to contact them. I email them. I text the detective and this and that, and I don't get any responses back. So that's another frustrating thing. I mean, if they were actually investigating this, they would contact us. And matter of fact, the last two detectives that's been on this case, we've never met them. I've asked to meet them, but I've never met them. They tell me, okay, we'll make arrangements. Well, I never hear from them. So I don't even know who's investigating it anymore.
They're not investigating.
Even if they wanted to, but they just weren't able to solve it, at the very least, you would want them to stay in touch with you and just say, hey, here's what we're doing. But that sounds like that's not happening on a regular basis.
No, it's not. It's not happening.
And that's frustrating when the people that are supposed to be working with you are not keeping you updated.
Exactly. It is very frustrating.
But I did read before that pregnant women are several times more likely to be the victims of foul play. And if Amanda was killed or something, and you think that's the case, I assume that she's not being held somewhere, then that means that her baby was also harmed and killed. So that we're talking more than one victim here.
Exactly. We're talking about two victims. The baby's name was Hayden Lucas, and he was our grandson. So we're not only missing our daughter, we're missing our grandson as well.
Yeah, and then and again, you mentioned, how close she was with her daughter, and she's grown up now without her mom.
She's grown up without her mom, and then 2 years later, her dad died. So she don't have any parents. She has really faced quite a bit of tragedy in her life.
Yeah, it's got to be very tough for a young person to lose two people like that early on. I know there's people probably that are listening that are parents of a lost child or a missing child like you are, and you've had 15 years of going through what you've gone through. What advice would you have for someone out there maybe listening that's in a similar situation to yours?
Just hang on. Don't give up. Do whatever you can. The main thing is don't give up. Don't ever forget. Don't just throw them up in a corner and say, oh, well, they're gone. No, I've had people say that to me that, well, it's been 10, 15 years. It's time to let it go. No, you never let it go. You can't. That's your loved one. That's your daughter or your son. You don't forget about it.
Is the not knowing what happened, is that worse if you were able to recover remains and at least have some kind of answers?
Yes, the unknown is worse than death, definitely. Because you don't know. You have no way of get closure, peace.
Again, I can't imagine as a parent myself what you've gone through for the last 15 years. I hope you do somehow find out the truth, and whoever is responsible for her disappearance faces justice. Do you have any kind of Facebook pages set up about Amanda's case?
Yes, we do. We have two of them.
And what are they both called?
One is Find Amanda Jones, and the other one is Help Find Amanda Jones.
And we'll be sure to put those in the podcast notes so people can click and come to your page. You mentioned that you do occasionally get tips or information from people. Is that primarily where they contact you, through the Facebook pages?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Do you ever get anything that you feel is promising or helpful as tips?
Well, we kind of hope all of them are. Some of them are hurtful. We do get some weirdos on there, as you can imagine. And the ones that we think, well, hey, here's a good tip. Here's something that they really should investigate. They don't seem to do it.
Again, that's got to be very frustrating. But hopefully, if someone out there has that information, maybe it just takes the right person hearing, coming forward and giving you the right information, and maybe that'll make a break in the case.
Well, like I said, there's people out there who know, but I've had several people on Facebook that would say to me, they're afraid of Brian Westphal. They're afraid of his family. So I know there's somebody out there who knows. It's just that these people are very prominent in the community out there in Hillsborough, Missouri, and people are afraid of them.
I wish you luck in going forward and finding out the answers in Amanda's case. Again, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing her story with us and helping us to understand the case a little bit better.
Okay, thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Missing Persons. If you can provide any information to help solve the case we discussed in this episode, we hope that you'll contact the appropriate authorities.
We hope that you'll tell your friends about Missing Persons and invite them to listen to the show. Word of mouth will really help us grow. And if you'd like to help us reach new listeners, please be sure to rate and review Missing Persons on the platform you're listening to us now on.
We'd like to tell you a little bit about our Patreon program. If you visit patreon.com/missingpodcast, you can sign up to help this podcast through ongoing monthly support. As a thank you, we'll give you an on-air shout-out, a thank you card and sticker, plus you'll get ad-free early access to every new episode of Missing Persons, as well as any bonus content.
Your Patreon support also goes directly towards helping the missing, because every dollar that we earn through Patreon will be split with two worthwhile causes that benefit the efforts to bring missing people home: CharlieProject.org and Private Investigations for the Missing. Your Patreon support will really go a long way towards helping. We hope you'll consider supporting the show. Just a reminder, new episodes of Missing Persons drop every other Saturday. If you want to find us on social media, you can search Facebook for Missing Persons Podcast. We're also on Twitter with the handle @missing_pod. And of course, you can always find us on our website, missingpersonspodcast.net. On behalf of Jess Betancourt, this is Mike Morford, saying thanks, and we'll see you next time on Missing Persons.
Missing Persons is produced under the name AbJack Entertainment by Mike Morford and Jessica Betancourt. It's hosted by Mike Morford and Jessica Betancourt, with writing and research by Jessica Betancourt and editing by Mike Morford. Be sure to listen every other Saturday for an all-new episode of Missing Persons.